All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. And like I said, this will be available on the Facebook wall after, because I know we can't all get here at the same time. We're all over the world. All right, so some of the different questions that I got ranged from beginning people who would just be like something that would be applicable to somebody who's just starting out, to people who are a little bit further along. And I think this is really good, actually, because even if this doesn't apply to you just yet, it will definitely apply to you later on. So, hey, Mary. Okay, so, all right, so one question was, how do you price different copy? So a lot of the content is revolving around blogs. I'm pricing blogs. And but then you're going to pretty quickly be asked by clients to write things like newsletters, email opt-ins, web copy, and then articles that are over 1,000 words. And when that happens, you are going to probably price things differently based on how long that content will be up on. Like, for example, website content is going to stay pretty stationary for a long time, so you would charge more for that. Opt-ins are usually going to be used for a long time and to collect emails, so you'll charge more for that. And then blogs, you're going on an ongoing basis, so it's going to be one of the lower prices. I really think that the goal for most people should be to get to 20 cents a word for a blog, and that would be $200 for 1,000 words. But then website copy, the goal is to be somewhere between 25 cents per word and 30 cents per word. But the thing here is, you really want to, the most important thing is to incentivize them to keep working with you. So if you have blogs and maybe you want to do an email opt-in, I would try and make it into a package. Website copy is another thing that this works really well with, is I say, here, I'll do an intro package for you with 5 pages for a discounted price, but then after that, I'm going to raise it to my regular price of 30 cents per word. So that's how you can get more bundles. There's no clear-cut answer for this. This is going to be kind of basically what you're trying to make, how long it takes you, and then obviously what niche you're in, who your clients are. So it's not cut or dry. Newsletters are usually pretty quick. I have a project minimum, which I think everybody should have. And I really recommend that's either like $75 or $150, and you just have a number that you don't want to work for anything less than. So really make sure you have a project minimum, because lots of little projects that are $40 here and $40 there, they'll just suck your time right up. So that is how you price different copy. If you have additional follow-up questions, go ahead and you can comment in the thread and we can address those later. So how do you turn down a client? First of all, you should be very okay in your mind about turning down clients. If you get a gut feeling that somebody is not good for you, you need to just pull the plug quick. I really believe in following your intuition here, and just remember that you really only need about 10 maybe clients for you to be comfortably having work coming in. So if you have a client that is, making you feel wary of working with them, maybe they're really condescending or they're extremely needy, you just need to say that you don't have the bandwidth or the time to give them that they need, and you just say it as politely as you possibly can, and then you bail quickly. This is also why I recommend always starting with a trial. First, that trial makes them feel more comfortable with hiring you for bigger projects, but it also gives you a chance to figure out if they're worth having them as a client, because sometimes it's just not worth it. All right, how to outline your articles. So when you're getting started, I always recommend you use an outline. One of the best things to do is to go ahead and look at the competition. Whatever the topic is you're writing about, type it into Google. Pay attention to what you typed into Google to get that article, because that should be probably a keyword or something similar. But then also pay attention to what other keywords are recommended and what's coming up and how that's worded as well. Pull up a few of the top competition pieces, look through them. They might already have a really fantastic outline, and it's totally cool to, snag the concept behind the outline, obviously. And then you can tweak it as you go. Maybe as you're writing, you're like, this subject is not necessary, and you delete it, and then you just keep going. I also add word counts to each section, which will help you make sure you don't go over on your time that it takes you to write an article. For example, if it's like there's 5 different sections, I'll maybe say, okay, 100 words for the intro, 200 words for the conclusion, and then like allot the rest of the numbers up appropriately. And that helps you as you're writing, especially early on, to know, all right, it's time to wrap up this section. How many times do you need SEO in your content? So SEO, again, remember, is something that we're always adding to our toolbox and to our skill set, and it's not a real cut and dry answer. There's lots of people out there making good guesses as to what are best practices. So with that in mind, there is no like 100% correct answer. Usually people answer that question in percentages. So like the amount of keyword concentration used to the like how long the piece of content is. Yeah, so check back to lesson 7 in Write Your Way to Freedom, and in there you'll find Moz, Neil Patel, and Backlinko are my 3 favorite resources for SEO. Also, another thing to keep in mind is long tail keywords are more accessible and better to go after than generic, which is why I really recommend going after location specific long tail keywords like doctor in St. Louis, Missouri, or something like that, or spa in Philadelphia. And then also going after questions, so things that people would actually ask Google to come up on your article. Okay, how can I let a new client know that I do not want to be added to Slack? So Slack, in my opinion, if you have more than one client, is like the absolute devil. You should avoid Slack at all costs. And this is actually in lesson 10. It is the intro of the video. I talk about that because I do not join my clients' project management systems. It's a massive time suck. People don't filter their thoughts. They don't organize them. They're just chit-chatting. They're talking about what they had for lunch. It is so not necessary for you to be on their Slack channel, unless, of course, you have like one main client. So keep that in mind. And so, okay, so what I say, like I said, this is in lesson 10, but basically, I just say, I thank you so much for wanting to add me, because first of all, they're doing it because they want to bring you on as part of the team, so there's no need to get defensive or annoyed and just be like, I'm honored, but I'm going to politely decline because I've found these to be a huge distraction to me as a writer, and that I have, X number of clients, and if I were to start doing this with each client, I'm pretty sure you could understand how that could just totally get away from me and become like a logistical nightmare. And then I also say that I learned from this as a mistake in the past, and I've really just kept to this, rule for myself, and it's made my work go tremendously better. It's just so much better all around for my writing, which is then obviously passed on to your client, because at the end of the day, you're a writer, you want to be a good writer for them. So avoid other people's tools. How can I get quicker at writing? All right, so this is an ongoing thing we're always all working on. Practice, of course, helps. Another major one for me is fighting perfectionist tendencies, especially as I'm writing. So one of the things I sometimes do is I just make myself write out my thoughts as fast as possible, and I do not go back and correct things. That means if you were to look at my writing, you would just see red lines underneath so much, because I'm basically doing it to get my thoughts on paper and to keep the creative juices flowing. So fighting perfectionist tendencies, that really helps. And then coming back when you go through and you read it and you're correcting it, it gives you a second chance to go ahead and refine everything that you're saying, but also do it more quickly. And then, of course, I recommend dictation software, which is just a big lifesaver. And also, it allows you to go back and forth between typing and writing, and then actually dictating when you're just tired. And then also making sure you don't go over word count. New writers tend to just want to give their clients everything, but really protect yourself and set your expectations early. If you say you're going to write a 1,000-word article, give them a 1,000-word article. I never go under, and I'll go over a little bit, maybe by 100 words or two. But if you consistently do that, it's really going to add to your time overall, I promise. So try to establish that as a habit early on. All right. How do you recommend handling a client who wants to rewrite your work? Do you accept it as part of being a ghostwriter? So, when you're writing for your clients, what you end up writing is actually their property. So if they want to rewrite it, it's totally their prerogative. This is actually a really good practice to get in the habit of not taking things too personally and not becoming overly attached to your work, which is, again, another ongoing skill and practice. There are going to be pieces that you write that you just can't help. You're totally attached to. You love them, and it like hurts your heart so much when the edits come back. But you will get used to it. It just takes some time. And then also remembering like it's part of the game. So yeah. Also, of course, limiting the number of edits. I only give them one edit now, sometimes two. I usually say one round of edits. If it's something like website content, I give them more because it's their website. It's not just a blog that's being published every week. But you definitely want to limit how often you are editing. And again, if something comes up and they really want another edit, I'm not going to be like, sorry, I only have 2 edits, and piss them off. So, all right. Do you have any advice for someone who can spend hours crafting the perfect email to clients, which is getting in the way of copywriting? All right, so again, this goes back to fighting perfectionist tendencies, which I totally have. I'll look for the quote I've heard one time where it's basically about how like ultra successful people know that they're never going to always have A+ work. It's just a fact. You're going to have days where your work is not A+ and you didn't bring your entire, like everything that you can offer to writing to the table. It is just because you're human. But again, that's going to be fighting your perfectionist tendencies. Also, make sure you title your emails well and consistently, because when you're writing, what will happen eventually is you'll start to write some of the same emails over and over again. So when you are going to email someone and you'll think back, oh my gosh, I totally wrote that email for John. And then if you go back and you're titling things consistently and similarly, you can go ahead and type that in your Gmail search bar, and it will come up, and you can probably just use it as a template. I have a bunch of email templates that have kind of been built over time. In fact, when I email people after our first client call, the email I send them is really long at this point because it has so much information in it, but it's pretty much the same email every time. It's a template email, and the only thing I really do is I go in and make sure my pricing is up to date and correct, and then I sometimes customize some of the portfolio pieces I have in there so that they are appropriate to whoever it is I'm sending it to. And then in the little introduction, I definitely make sure that I include things from our conversation, so it's, details that are specific to them. And then I also, because my email's so long, I schedule it a little bit later so that they don't think I just copy and pasted this email, because, it looks like, it took a long time to write this email. And it feels good to, have them think that they got this huge proposal or whatever, and that you didn't just copy and paste it, which, is nice. Anyway, so you place importance on your morning ritual, but do you have a post-work ritual to decompress? So this is a really great question. I kind of do this naturally, so I haven't really thought about it. For me, I have to just get away from my computer. So that means going outside. I really prefer to do something physical. Yeah, and I just kind of naturally do it. At the end of my day, every day, I'm either outside in the sun, at the beach, at dance class, and that is how I decompress. Something else that I want to suggest is that as you're going through your day, pay attention to what's physically, emotionally, mentally draining you the most, and see what you can do to reduce its impact on your day. So things like if you have something with your mindset that needs to be addressed in your morning routine. For example, I have a really bad habit when I'm talking to clients or, having email exchanges with them. If they get really busy and they respond with 2 words, I suddenly think like everything, like we're done, like this is over. And it usually turns out not to be the case. I've created an entire imaginary situation. I've had imaginary conversations with them. And by the time they come back around or they're not busy anymore and they're ready to get going, I realized I made that entire situation up in my head. So I have something in my morning routine to battle that really exhausting thing that I do. And then seriously eating well, eating high quality food, sleeping well, not drinking as much, those all will help you not feel as drained. And then also Swanee blue blockers, which block the blue light from your screen. Those are a game changer for me. If I get to the office and I don't have them with me, I will go home and get them. I cannot work without them anymore, and I don't care that I look like a total nerd. I was seeing if they were nearby. Like a total nerd when I'm sitting in a coffee shop or in an office wearing them, because they make me feel so much less drained at the end of the day. So I really recommend those. I'll also drop that link in the comments at the end. And then, how many pitches do you send new clients? This is the last one, and then we'll wrap up. I'm not entirely sure by what you mean, how many pitches do you send new clients, because I consider a pitch when you get on a phone with them. But if you mean like a proposal or a cold email, I only send them the initial, information, and then I only follow up once. And here's the thing. If you have enough time on your hands to be wondering why you haven't heard back from a client, whether it's a cold email or a proposal, it's time to cold email and go after more clients, because really I believe you should be keeping your focus forward and not behind you. Sometimes people are busy and you just will not hear back from them for a while, even if they're an ongoing, consistent client. I have one client, he does not email me for a month, 2 months, and then all of a sudden he has massive projects for me. He doesn't edit edit articles until like a month later. He just comes in bursts. And then I've also had cold emails where I got a response a year later. No joke. I had a guy who contacted me a year later because he wanted me to write the chapter of a book. So, and it ended up being a really awesome and great project. I was so totally shocked. So don't obsess over your cold emails or your pitches. Just move on. Time for a new client, time to add to your client base. Just moving forward always and building momentum. So, all right, awesome.